Hiya, Sadie. Thank you very much for joining us today and taking the time to speak to us about your experience with CES. So we've just got a few questions we'd like to ask you to share with everyone for our festival. Now, if you don't mind, just to begin with, if you could just sort of let everyone know when you were diagnosed with CES.
I was diagnosed 6th of May 2019, so fairly couple of years. I had an initial surgery, and then 2 weeks later I had more surgery, and that's basically when it all started for me.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that one. And what would you say, Sadie, was and still is your worst issue for you? So, regarding your bladder, your bowel, sexual function, mobility, what do you feel is probably your most affected area there?
I suppose on joint, it's my bowel and sexual function. I'd only been married 2 years when I got diagnosed. So as you can imagine, that's had quite a big impact. But personally, I think the biggest thing is definitely my bowel, and I really have problems dealing with that. Yeah. I did from day one. I'm quite tittle stomach and didn't think I would be able to manually evacuate. And I had district nurses coming for over 12 months because I just wasn't ready to take it on, or I wouldn't entertain it. But yeah, definitely my bowel is the biggest thing, biggest issue that I have.
Biggest issue. I mean, how do you feel you're sort of managing now? So I know you said you had 12 months of support there. I mean, do you feel also mentally that you feel, you're in a better place than you were, 12 months ago when you first started having the support?
I am, yeah. That's since the continence team got involved 3 months ago, and we started the irrigation system. We've had 1 or 2 problems along the way, but I'm ready to take it on board to get that independence back.
Great.
Yeah, but I still find it a nightmare, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it is. No, it is a real, well, it's a life change anyway, isn't it? Regardless of what you have to deal with. But going from one extreme of just being able to go to the toilet free, well, I think, you take it all for granted, don't you? Just how simple life was before. So, I do.
Just the simplest of things is you forget, you don't know how to go to the toilet anymore, and that sounds really stupid. And when you try to explain it to other people, they don't get it. But when they say something simple like, "Oh, when you get the feeling to wee," but we don't get that feeling. So, and you just don't know what that feeling is because you do take it for granted.
Yeah, no, definitely. You do, and it's hard to sometimes remember, isn't it? And sometimes you don't want to remember what life was like, before CES. I mean, do you? So you say you're in a good place with that, with your bowels, and how do you manage that? I mean, do you set yourself reminders on your phone, or how do you sort of keep on top of that one, Sadie?
I'm in between at the moment. I do a bit of irrigation and a bit of manual evacuating still, just because I'm not fully. I'm hoping that eventually it will just be the irrigation system, but I'm still going through the trial period of it, and I have had a lot of obstacles with it, so I'm still not 100% there with it, but I do it at a regular time every day.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that I will get to that every other day, like they say it works.
Yes, yeah. No, and keep going on. It sounds like you're in a positive, frame of mind now. And do you have you've got support at home? You've got a partner there with you as well, so you've got support there?
Yeah, 100% support. Really has been from day one, and it doesn't matter what comes up or what needs doing. She's always there, and she does support me, definitely.
Excellent. I mean, it's really humbling to hear. I mean, lots of people sadly do, relationships can deteriorate, can't they, or you know, break up, sadly. But I know I'm really pleased to hear you've got that, you know, great support network at home with your partner. She sounds, definitely a keeper there. So it's
doesn't matter what's thrown at her, she just takes it and carries on, reassuring all the time. And definitely got a keeper.
That's excellent. No, that's really good to hear. And so sort of moving on to the next question there, Sadie. So you've said about your issues there with the bowels, but could you just sort of tell us a little bit what your experience was like following discharge from the hospital, and your ongoing support? So how much support did you have following discharge with, for example, your physio team, your GPs, neurosurgeons? What sort of support did you have there afterwards, Sadie?
GPs I found very supportive. I was their first case at surgery, but there was one doctor in particular that took quite an interest and was really supportive and pushed for things for me, which was great. When I left the hospital, I didn't get physio until over about 13, 14 months. But then I did take a lot of healing because I had internal stitches and things like that. So they kept saying, give yourself time to heal, and pushing me back.
Yes.
So that may have been the reason, but I still feel that was a long time before starting physio, because I wanted to get up there and I wanted to push forward. Yes. And I've always been about pushing forward and doing what I can. But I just felt that they were always pushing me back.
Yes.
Regarding bowel support, it was only 3 months ago that Continence team got involved with me.
Right.
And things have started to change since then. And also, I think that's a very long time.
Yeah.
As 12 months of community nurse coming in and doing evacuation for me every other day.
Yes.
Was not, I don't know, no independence. It got me to a very dark place, if I'm honest, because I didn't feel like I had any control of anything.
Yeah.
So, and like I say, my bowel is what bothers me the most. So that had the biggest impact on me. So that was affecting me mentally the most as well.
Yeah.
So I don't feel that the right support was there.
No.
Well, there was no support. Although the district community nurse was coming in, it wasn't the right way forward, I feel.
Okay. No, it's sad to hear, and I appreciate you speaking up about that, because obviously, like you say, you're in quite a dark place. I mean, so you are a wheelchair user as well, is that right, Sadie?
Yeah.
So how did you find your occupational therapist support, following discharge? So did you have your home assessments and any support there at all for your adaptations around the house?
No, I never had any home assessments on leaving hospital. They did ask me if I wanted a handrail for the bed, which I had. But apart from that, there was no visit to home. I was kind of sent home and left to get on with it. Wheelchair, I got probably about 12 months later. We actually went out and purchased a wheelchair because that was my only way of moving forward, because I just couldn't get hold of one through the NHS.
Wow.
For some time.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me asking, I mean, so you had to fund that yourself, did you say that you had to pay for that?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what sort of price was that at the time?
We just sort of went down to the local disability place and we purchased, I think it was about £400 wheelchair. Pretty basic. Not really functional, are they? Let's be honest.
No.
Not like a wheelchair I'd like to buy now. But they're not functional. They're just, I don't know. They're heavy, and it was a lightweight one, but my partner struggles folding it, getting it in and out the car. And
yes.
I don't know. My grandparents also brought me a mobility scooter so that I could get out and about and have some independence, which was brilliant.
Excellent. Yeah.
but I didn't like it. Don't like the scooter. The perspective from other people, the way they look at you and the way they speak to you, and the whole thing is totally different to being in a wheelchair.
It's I mean, it's the kind of the stigma, isn't it? It's really hard. I found that myself when I first took myself out in the mobility scooter. You kind of feel, well, you feel like you've aged yourself overnight, don't you? For one, that's how I personally felt. But no, I mean, yeah, again, take my hat off to you. You've given it a try, haven't you? So you haven't just given up. You know, I appreciate you've had to fund this yourself, which, again, you know, thank you for sharing that. It's a shame you didn't have any support there. So yeah, just sort of moving on. So thanks for sharing that point there, Sadie. So if for example you're able to, you know, turn the clocks back and tweak your initial care and immediate support, how do you feel if you were to sort of position this for anyone out there? What care would you have liked to have seen immediately to make your experience less traumatic, and also actually to help, you know, future patients that are going through the same traumatic experience? What would you like to see personally done differently to make a change for the future, and also in your own personal care previously?
I feel that before you'd even discharge from hospital, I mean, there's a lot of things that you're dealing with cord recliner, and mentally, physically, bowel functions, everything that you deal with. I think you need some kind of information to leave the hospital with, contact numbers there to leave the hospital with, and certainly some kind of mental health. It's major. It's life-changing. Yes. And I think that really needs to be a really something that should be touched before you're even discharged from hospital. Definitely.
Yes.
I mean, you need all them appointments, because you're just fighting for them. As soon as you leave hospital, it's like nobody's interested. You're on a list. But if you could have all those appointments before you left hospital with continence teams, everybody, that mental health, anybody that's needed, if you could have all that and then appointments before you left hospital, I think it would be totally different. Throughout the whole of this, you need to try and remain positive, and that's really hard to do when you're battling against trying to get appointments and trying to move forward.
Yes. All
the time. And that's all you want, is to move forward, get some independence, it's a different life, but we've still got that life, but we need help to live it.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to come before we're even discharged from hospital.
Yeah. No, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head, definitely, on so many points there, Sadie. And I think one of the big areas for me that I've kind of pulled out of that, definitely mental health. You know, for all of us, you know, living with CES, that has, you know, should be the first thing that we have support with, because, you know, a sudden change like this and your whole life, you know, it is completely changed over in a blink of an eye sometimes. Mentally, to get your head around that, it's make or break, isn't it? You know, some people sadly just they haven't got the strength to continue, and it's really, really sad to sort of hear and see. No, so I really appreciate actually sharing that point, because again, you know, if you could turn back time, of course, you know, you'd have liked things to have been done differently. So hopefully, you know, with some of the points you've covered today, again, to the audience, we'll be displaying this to, you know, hopefully some points can be taken on board, you know, and maybe some changes implemented there going forward. So I think, you know, that kind of wraps up the questions that, you know, we'd like to cover with yourself today, Sadie. But is there anything in particular or any additional points you would like to cover, perhaps, while we've got some time together today?
I don't think so, because it can be endless, can't it? It can be endless. It's just, we need to stay positive, and that's very hard to do. And I think we need to rely on each other in doing that. Yes. While things try and get changed.
Yes.
Into how CES patients are treated and looked on. But yeah, we certainly need to start leaning on each other more.
Yeah, no, definitely. And a very, really, really strong point there to close. And again, just be proud of yourself for today as well. You've spoken out, which I appreciate. It takes a lot of courage, doesn't it, speaking out about how you feel. So I'm hoping this is going to touch, well, I know it will touch a lot of hearts, that's for sure, for patients out there, medical professionals as well. It hopefully might hit the sort of nail on the head on a few areas there. So really appreciate your time today, Sadie, and wish you all the best, and we'll stay in touch. We'll speak to you soon. Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you ever so much. Take care.